U.S. history is one of the most ancient and enduring in the world, from humble Neolithic beginnings to today's economic powerhouse. Its story spans thousands of years. Every great civilization starts with an idea. How do we create a society that lasts? Confucius's answers came not from weapons or conquest, but from wisdom, respect, and harmony. In the ancient kingdom of Lu, around 551 BCE, a boy named Kong Chu was born to modest means. Later known as Confucius, he grew up in a time of turmoil, where warlords clashed and social order crumbled. Observing this chaos, he longed for a return to harmony and justice. As a young man, he pursued knowledge tirelessly, mastering history, music, governance. And he served briefly in government, but grew disillusioned by corruption. Instead, he chose to become a teacher. Traveling across China to spread his vision, he wrote, "A just ruler leads by virtue, like the North Star that anchors the sky." Confucius emphasized respect for elders, loyalty to family, and the importance of education. His philosophy, later compiled into the Analects, revolved around ethical behavior and proper relationships between individuals, families, and the state. Though unappreciated in his lifetime, his teachings became the foundation of Chinese culture, shaping politics, education, and social norms for centuries. During the Han Dynasty, Confucianism became the state ideology, influencing everything from the civil service exam to family hierarchies. Concepts like filial piety, deep respect for one's parents and ancestors, remained central to Chinese values, fostering cohesion in both families and society. Today, Confucius's legacy endures, not only in China, but across the world, as a symbol of wisdom and ethical teaching. His timeless teachings remind us that virtue, respect, and self-improvement are the keys to a harmonious society. Of course, Confucius lived a long time ago, and so some of his ideas might be considered controversial or outdated, especially by modern Western standards, particularly in the context of contemporary values like gender equality, individualism, and a democratic governance. Here's a few examples. He promoted rigid social hierarchies. Confucius valued order. Again, he came up in a time when things were a bit chaotic. And so he emphasized the importance of strict social roles and hierarchies, such as ruler-subject, father-son, husband-wife, elder-younger. These were the relationships, and this was your place in them. Each person was expected to fulfill their role dutifully to maintain harmony. In modern times, this rigid structure can be seen as overly hierarchical and incompatible with egalitarian ideals. Critics would argue that it stifles individual freedom and perpetuates inequality. Here's another example: gender roles and patriarchy. And now I'll do a whole episode on patriarchy, I'm sure, in the future, but Confucius's teachings largely reinforced traditional gender roles, with women expected to be submissive and focused on domestic duties, while men held positions of power and authority. Feminist critiques, of course, highlight how Confucian ideals contributed to a systematic patriarchy in East Asian societies. And then there's conservatism and resistance to change. You wouldn't say this is a very progressive ideology. Confucius valued tradition, ritual, and adherence to the past as a means of achieving social order and moral virtue. This focus on tradition can be seen as resistant to innovations and progress. Critics might argue that it discourages questioning of authority or challenging outdated practices. And then you have collectivism over individualism. Fast forward to the 20th century, we have great examples in the West of how collectivist ideologies went terribly wrong with Nazism, communism, or fascism. And Confucian philosophy prioritizes the group, family, community, and state over the individual. Personal desires and ambitions were often secondary to societal harmony. And then you have the limits of the meritocracy that Confucius supported at the time. While Confucius supported merit-based advancement through education, his system largely benefited an elite who had access to the resources and time to study. It is not a democratized meritocracy. It's a meritocracy of the elite. You would have to be in the elite already and then prove your merit. The other great belief system that is also a cornerstone of Chinese culture is Daoism, which grew out of the same time period of Confucius. The founder of Daoism is traditionally considered to be Lao Tzu, a semi-legendary figure believed to have lived in the 6th century BCE during China's Zhou dynasty. According to legend, he was an archivist to the imperial court who grew disillusioned with society's corruption. He decided to leave civilization and journey westward. And it was at the Henggu Pass, a gatekeeper recognized Lao Tzu's wisdom and asked him to record his teachings before departing. Lao Tzu then wrote the foundational text of Daoism. After this, Lao Tzu is said to have disappeared, with some traditions suggesting he became an immortal sage. Daoism is an ancient Chinese philosophical and religious tradition that emphasizes living in harmony with the Tao, also spelled Tao with a T-A-O, which is often translated as the way or the path. Daoism emphasizes naturalness, spontaneity, and simplicity in life, and it offers a deep philosophical exploration of the natural world and human existence. Here's some key tenets of Daoism. The central concept of Daoism is the Tao, which represents the underlying natural order of the universe. It is formless, elusive, and beyond full human understanding, but it governs the functioning of the world. Daoism encourages individuals to align their actions with the Tao to achieve peace, balance, and harmony. And then we have Wu Wei, non-action or effortless action. Wu Wei is the principle of acting in accordance with the flow of the universe, without unnecessary force or resistance. It doesn't mean inaction, but refers to spontaneous, effortless action that is in harmony with the natural order. In other words, go with the flow, rather than imposing one's will. And then we have yin and yang. The concept of yin, the passive, receptive, feminine, dark aspect, and the yang, the active, assertive, masculine, light aspect. The balance and the interdependence of these forces are seen as essential to maintaining harmony in the universe and in human life. While not as influential, especially politically, as Confucianism, Daoism has had great influence on Chinese political philosophy, particularly the idea of non-interference in governance, emphasizing that rulers should lead with minimal intervention, allowing society and nature to function naturally. This concept aligns with the idea of Wu Wei. Daoism deeply influenced Chinese art and literature. Daoist themes can be found in poetry, landscape painting, and calligraphy. Daoism also contributed to the development of Chinese martial arts, particularly those emphasizing internal energy and fluid, natural movements like Tai Chi. And then, of course, in architecture and design, we see the idea of Feng Shui. Feng Shui is the art of harmonizing human dwellings with the natural environment to ensure health, prosperity, and spiritual balance. While Confucianism and Daoism are often seen as opposing philosophical traditions, they have often coexisted and influenced the other. Confucianism emphasizes moral duty, social hierarchy, and the importance of structured relationships, such as those between ruler and subject or parent and child, right? Daoism, on the other hand, stresses personal harmony with nature and the universe. That may seem at odds, but these two philosophies often complement one another, right? With Confucianism providing a structure for society and Daoism offering an individual path to personal well-being. Confucianism emphasizes active governance through moral example and order, while Daoism advocates for a more passive approach. In practice, Chinese rulers often blended the two, adopting Confucian principles for governance and Taoist principles for personal conduct and leadership. See how this works? Confucianism focuses on cultivating virtues such as filial piety and benevolence, which guide social behavior. Daoism, while not neglecting moral development, emphasizes individual spontaneity and freedom, and true virtue arises from living naturally and in harmony with the Tao. Many Chinese scholars and practitioners found that both traditions contributed complementary moral teachings. And that syncretism in practice over the centuries, we see elements of Daoism and Confucianism have become intertwined in Chinese society. Many individuals may practice Confucian rituals, such as ancestor worship, alongside Taoist practices like meditation and seeking balance with nature. Throughout Chinese history, Confucianism has been the dominant force in shaping state ideology, social structure, and education. Its emphasis on moral duty, social hierarchy, and governance influenced Chinese imperial rule for centuries. Taoism, while never fully supplanting Confucianism, has provided a complementary set of beliefs, focusing on individual harmony, spirituality, and natural balance. The two ideologies, although distinct, often coexisted and influenced one another, and many Chinese people adopted a blend of both in their personal lives, creating a rich and diverse cultural heritage.